In 2012, Cari Farver vanished into thin air. But for the next 4 years, her boyfriend and her own mother kept receiving thousands of messages from her. Angry messages, threatening messages, messages that tracked their movements, described their houses, and predicted where they would be next. Cari wasn't missing. She was stalking them. Or at least, that's what everyone believed. But here's the impossible part, the part investigators almost refused to believe. How could a woman who had vanished without a trace keep tormenting the people who missed her most? And if it wasn't her, who was controlling her voice from behind the screen? And listen, if this case already has your mind spinning, hit subscribe right now, because next week we're covering another case. The SpaceX liar Chandler Halderson, one of the most shocking deception stories in modern true crime. Cari Farver was a 37-year-old single mom from Macedonia, Iowa. She was practical, methodical, the kind of person who paid bills early, double-checked calendars, and kept photo albums for her son. Friends described her as organized but warm, the type who showed up early to work, stayed late if someone needed her, and still made time to help her family. She worked in information technology, loved puzzles, and had recently taken steps to secure her financial future. She was steady, dependable, and fiercely devoted to her son. In November 2012, she met a mechanic named Dave Krupa in Omaha. They clicked. Not a dramatic love story, more of a quiet, mutual attraction. They agreed to keep it casual. No pressure, no expectations. 2 weeks later, Cari vanished. At first, everyone thought she had voluntarily disappeared. But the truth was far darker, and the person pretending to be Cari was just getting started. It began small. Cari missed work. She didn't return calls. Her mother knew immediately that something was off. Cari wasn't the type to vanish. She never left her son for more than a night. She never missed a shift. But then, the messages started. First to Dave, then to Cari's mother, then to friends. They ranged from irritated to jealous to threatening. "I never want to see you again. Stay away from me. I'll ruin your life." And they were relentless, arriving at all hours, from different numbers, different accounts, different apps. The tone was wrong. The spelling was wrong. Cari didn't write like this. She didn't speak like this. And yet, who else could access all these intimate details? Who else knew the routines, relationships, and private information? Investigators initially believed the messages were from Cari. It made sense on the surface. People in emotional distress sometimes withdraw, sometimes lash out. And since there was no body, no crime scene, and a digital flood of messages claiming to be from her, police leaned toward the simplest explanation. Cari Farver left of her own will and didn't want to be found. For years, this assumption poisoned the investigation. Whenever someone tried to push for more, a search, a press conference, a new angle, another message came in from Cari telling them to back off. She was missing, yet still talking. Alive, but unseen. This was the red herring that stalled the case for almost half a decade. But the messages didn't stop. They multiplied. Dave began receiving thousands, threatening him, accusing him, claiming she was watching him from outside his apartment. There were messages describing the inside of his home, the clothes he was wearing, who he was dating. Then the harassment jumped from digital to physical. Dave's garage was vandalized. Threats were carved into doors. His new girlfriend's house was targeted. Someone even set fire to one woman's property. Every attack came with a message from Cari. At this point, even Dave wondered, is Cari really doing all of this? Or is something much bigger happening? For years, detectives were stuck in a digital maze. Every email led to another. Every account connected to another fake identity. The messages came from different states, different devices, different platforms. But one detective, investigator Jim Doty, didn't buy the simple explanation. He reviewed every message, every IP address, every log. Slowly, a pattern emerged. Almost all the digital footprints led back to one person, a woman named Shanna Golyar. Liz wasn't just a side character. She was Dave's on-again, off-again partner, the woman he had been seeing before and after he met Cari. And the more investigators looked into Liz, the stranger things became. Liz had reported being harassed too. She said Cari stalked her, damaged her property, and targeted her repeatedly. She showed detectives screenshots, emails, and threatening messages from Cari, but something felt off. Liz was always in the middle of the chaos. She always discovered evidence at just the right time. She always had screenshots ready, too ready. And then Liz's house went up in flames. Liz claimed Cari had burned down her home. She pointed at the ashes, crying, shaking, telling police that Cari was dangerous and unstable. But investigators noticed something else. Liz was incredibly calm for someone whose home had just been destroyed. She had saved her pets, but none of her belongings. She immediately shifted the conversation to Dave, how he needed protection, how she was the one loyal to him. Detectives had seen this pattern before, someone creating chaos just to step in as the victim. And here's the truly wild part. This kind of staged deception reminds me so much of our next case, the Chandler Halderson story, where an entire set of lies collapsed under one unbelievable mistake. But back to Cari, because the final twist in this case is even more chilling. The breakthrough happened when investigators recovered an old tablet and memory card connected to Liz. They sifted through deleted files, fragments, and metadata, and deep inside the device, they found a photo that changed everything. It was a picture of a woman's foot, a tattooed foot, a tattoo matching Cari Farver's. But here's the problem. The photo was taken after Cari disappeared, and there was one more detail, something investigators couldn't ignore. The metadata placed the photo at Liz's location. This was the missing piece. It wasn't Cari texting everyone. It was Liz. She had assumed Cari's identity online, creating thousands of fake accounts, sending tens of thousands of messages, and manufacturing digital chaos to make everyone think Cari was still alive. But the darkest part? Cari had been gone since the very beginning. Investigators are confident that Cari was harmed shortly after leaving Dave's apartment in November 2012. Liz, driven by jealousy and an obsession with controlling Dave's life, removed her as competition. Then, she kept Cari alive. Not physically, but digitally. She used her phone, her accounts, her voice. She became Cari online. And for 4 years, she manipulated everyone, including police, to maintain the illusion. It was one of the longest and most disturbing digital impersonations in true crime history. On the 22nd of December 2016, investigators finally had enough evidence to arrest Shanna Golyar. She was charged with ending Cari Farver's life, arson, and multiple counts of false reporting. During the trial, prosecutors laid out the digital trail: IP logs, account registrations, device extractions, deleted photos, metadata, and thousands of messages that could only have come from Liz. Cari's body was never recovered, making the case more difficult, but the sheer weight of digital evidence was overwhelming. In 2017, Liz was convicted and sentenced to life in prison, plus additional years for the arson and related charges. Even in interviews after her conviction, Liz insisted she was the victim, continuing the same narrative she used for years. Cari's family lives with 2 wounds: the loss of a daughter and mother, and the years in which her identity was hijacked, twisted, and used as a weapon. Her son, who was a teenager at the time, struggled with the flood of false messages that made people question who his mother really was. Her mother has spoken often about the emotional toll, waking up to hateful messages from someone using her daughter's name. Dave Krupa, the man unknowingly at the center of the jealousy, has described the lasting fear, the guilt, and the years of harassment that consumed his life. This wasn't just a crime. It was a digital haunting, one that stole a life, a voice, and a legacy. The digital ghost case is a terrifying reminder that in the modern world, someone can take a person's phone and steal their identity, their voice, and even their existence. Digital forensics, not DNA, solved this case. In a world where so much of our lives exist online, the truth can be buried under login screens and fake profiles. But servers remember, metadata remembers, and eventually, the truth surfaces. What do you think? Was the sentence fair? Should digital impersonation carry heavier penalties when used to hide a violent crime? Tell me your thoughts in the comments. And if this case shocked you, make sure you're here next week, because the story of Chandler Halderson, the so-called SpaceX liar, is even more unbelievable. Click the video on screen, make sure you subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more cases like this. Stay safe.